And what's your message to the big corporate clients of the big law firms that you've targeted with your executive orders? Do you want those big corporate clients to find new lawyers?
I just think that the law firms have to behave themselves. And we've proven that. We have others that want to make a settlement also. They, having to do with the election and other things, they behave very badly, very wrongly. And I appreciate the one, these are the biggest firms. And they all came back realizing that they did wrong. And that's why they're doing this. So I just think they have to behave. We have to straighten out our country. We have to straighten out our elections.
It's Ken Harbaugh with the MeidasTouch Network. I have been fortunate enough in my life to know some genuine heroes, from my time in the Navy decades ago to my recent trips to Ukraine. We all have an idea of what physical courage looks like, but I don't think we pay enough attention to what moral courage is. We certainly don't give it enough credit. With the Trump administration's endless assaults on our institutions, on our democracy, it is moral courage we most need right now. You may have heard that major American law firms targeted by Trump for having represented his political enemies are now capitulating to him. In one case, a firm that represented top Democratic clients just surrendered to Trump's threats of retribution and agreed to give the Trump administration $40 million of pro bono legal support. The acts of cowardice among our supposed leaders are piling up. But let me show you what moral courage looks like. Rachel Cohen is a recent Harvard Law School graduate just starting her legal career. She landed a job at one of the most prestigious law firms in the country. It's a goal she has been pursuing her entire life, and she is about to walk away from it on principle because her firm's leaders, some of the most powerful lawyers in the world, have conceded to the Trump administration without a fight. A few days ago, Rachel sent a letter to her colleagues excoriating her firm's refusal to defend the rule of law, and she made clear that she would resign before remaining with a firm that bent the knee to Donald Trump. When a junior associate exhibits more guts than her entire firm put together, that is the kind of moral courage we need today. But don't take it from me. I spoke with Rachel Cohen earlier today. Here's our conversation. Welcome to the Ken Harbaugh Show. It's an honor to have you on. How are you holding up?
Thank you. Under the circumstances, pretty well. Thanks for having me.
Can you give us, before we jump in to your message to your law firm, a bit of the backstory? Why are law firms under such incredible pressure right now from the Trump administration? What is the administration threatening to do?
Thanks for asking, Ken, because I think that one of the things the administration is doing quite intentionally is targeting the judiciary and kind of the court system and rule of law through this almost esoteric and inaccessible area of it, which is these extremely profitable large corporate law firms who nobody thinks is going to be the front line of the defense of justice in this country, kind of just on their face. Nobody feels bad for these billion-dollar firms for potentially losing some profits. It kind of feels like a fight that is very removed from the average American, because Donald Trump has been launching a series of assaults through executive orders aimed at threatening and intimidating large corporate law firms out of taking on certain representations. And he's been doing that by wielding kind of government contracting power and even his power to evaluate third parties' government contracts if they work with the law firms in question. But he's doing these things for a variety of reasons. It's a really important part of a broader assault on the judiciary and the court system as the branch that has the ability to check him when he oversteps his authority. And why it is important for the rule of law that the president not be intimidating these large firms is because they often throw resources and supports behind the public interest attorneys that are on the front lines of resistance and legal challenges to the Trump administration. And so it's this mass intimidation campaign. Perkins Coie, this law firm that was targeted in the March 6th executive order, decided to fight. The president puts out another executive order targeting a different large corporate law firm, this time Paul Weiss, again pointing to past representation, despite the fact that that was why the temporary restraining order was issued, was because basing these punishments on past representation is unconstitutional. And what ended up happening was that Paul Weiss, that corporate law firm, capitulated to the Trump administration and offered them a deal that includes $40 million in pro bono legal services for Trump administration aims, as well as a commitment to an evaluation of their hiring practices and retention practices that's clearly aimed at intimidating associates. There's one more thing, and then I promise I will let you talk, which is that the Trump administration issued 20 EEOC demand letters aimed at 20 corporate law firms, including my own former firm, Skadden Arps, that request an immense amount of personal information about associates at those firms and is aimed specifically at names, emails, telephone numbers of people that got diversity scholarships or that were members of the SEO fellowship program, which is historically open to minorities and people from underrepresented backgrounds. So that's a little bit of the context, and I will never give an answer that long again.
There seems to be shockingly little leadership from the C-suites of these firms and shockingly little linking of arms to push back against this executive overreach. And when it came to like threats to the bottom line, most of these law firms have caved. In fact, just a couple hours ago, the chairman of Paul Weiss released a statement firm-wide that was leaked, and within it was this paragraph: "We were guided by our fiduciary duty to all of you, the 2,500 lawyers and professionals who work at Paul Weiss, and that consideration, the need to ensure above all that our firm would survive, weighed extreme heavily on all of us, and especially on me." Setting aside the question of whether, in fact, standing up to the Trump administration would be a death sentence for the firm, I think that's arguable. The idea that the overriding duty of a lawyer is to ensure that our firm would survive. Correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, I graduated from Yale Law School, but I never joined a state bar. You swear an oath to the Constitution when you join the bar. Am I wrong?
That's my recollection. I don't know if it's in every state, but most of them at least.
Well, I certainly did joining the military, and most of my friends who join their state bars talk about oaths to the Constitution. And the idea that the superseding oath would be to your law firm, I just find deeply offensive coming from somebody with that much experience and that much power.
Mm-hmm. And I think that that's what ultimately I find so disappointing about this current moment, is that the people who have all the power, and this is, common across not just the legal industry, but the American experiment itself, the people that have the power to stop wide-reaching harms have very little to lose in the grand scheme of things if they do so. God forbid that, the revenues next year be $7 billion instead of $8 billion. And so you're really not standing to lose what people in immigration court stand to lose if they cannot obtain representation, if lawyers representing them are threatened, or any of the myriad other vulnerable populations in this country currently under attack by the Trump administration right now. And I think it disappoints me to see the number of people that are so unwilling to run a small risk to the bottom line that I feel pretty confident would come out in the wash once this administration is no longer in office, to see their priorities when they could do so much for so many people by simply following the law.
Delete Me makes it easy, quick, and safe to remove your personal data online at a time when surveillance and data breaches are common enough to make everyone vulnerable. Delete Me does all the hard work of wiping your and your family's personal information from data broker websites. Delete Me sends you regular personalized privacy reports showing what info they found, where they found it, and what they removed. As someone with an active online presence, privacy is incredibly important to me. And it's not just about my personal privacy. It's about my family's safety. So I don't take chances. Delete Me gives me real peace of mind. So take control of your data and keep your private life private by signing up for Delete Me, now at a special discount for our listeners. Today, get 20% off your Delete Me plan by texting Ken to 64,000. The only way to get 20% off is to text KEN to 64000. That's KEN to 64000. Message and data rates may apply. Hey, it's Ken. Quick break to let you know we've got a Substack page for the Ken Harbaugh Show. If you want to make sure you never miss an episode, check it out. A lot of you already have. Thank you so much. And if you're able to, please subscribe. Every dollar goes back into the show to help with research, production, and reporting from places like Ukraine. None of this happens without your support. Thank you. Welcome to the Resistance. You're a junior associate. Correct me if I'm wrong, you graduated from Harvard just a couple of years ago, and you're the one making the moral stand, not the leaders that you should be looking to. I want to read this update you posted on LinkedIn and then give us an update on how folks are reacting to it. You said, I don't think this is a political issue. It's a rule of law issue. The industry's choices in the next few days have far-reaching repercussions for the future of the American Republic itself. I will risk professional aspirations for that. I hope we act before it's too late. But if we don't, I will at least be able to sleep at night knowing that I tried as hard as I could to get my colleagues to do so. Where are your colleagues right now? And what are you hearing from the larger legal community after this firm-wide memo to your firm leaked?
To be fair, I am the one who leaked it. So, but I'm sure I wouldn't have been had I waited a little longer. I think something that I'm trying to be very careful to make sure that I say whenever given the opportunity, and I appreciate you giving it to me, is that I am the public facing kind of speaker on this because I am uniquely situated to do so as someone who holds so many privileges. I mean, you're a white Ivy League educated attorney. You understand all of the kind of protection that comes from the intersection of those things, among many others. As well as I've said before, and I'm not attempting to hide, I didn't see myself in big law extremely long term. It was very much to build savings back up, to get some financial security, to understand how the industry worked. But I certainly was not trying to make partner in 10 years, you know? And so I was situated well to not bear the worst repercussions of quitting. I also have like a small, medium-sized presence on TikTok. And so it was pretty easy to amplify messages that I was putting out. I knew people would assume it was me anyway because of the TikTok presence. And so I'm here. But there are dozens, hundreds of associates at these firms that are working very, very hard to capitalize on the kind of inflection point that we've created together. And there's also so many lawyers in the broader legal industry that are doing incredible work to continue to uphold rule of law that always have been, and that always have been the moral guiding light of justice in this country. Again, that's not coming from big law firms. But I think that the people within those firms that understand the gravity of the current moment, which is a lot of them, particularly the associates, are going to do everything in their power to use this kind of public attention that we've bought to push their firms to do the right thing and to continue to make it possible for the lawyers that do this work full time to continue doing so through not just the resources of big law, but also through maintaining kind of the notion of rule of law broadly, even amongst the most powerful attorneys in the country.
Well, I hope you're right. And I want to be as supportive of that bottoms up leadership as I can be, but it is a sign of not just a system under strain, but a broken system where the associates have to lead their partners. And I want to end with this from your letter to the firm, which I think really captures the moral import of what you did. You wrote, I spent most of my high school history classes wondering what I would do in the moments before true horror or chaos, or where my values were tested and demanded great sacrifice. I do not wonder anymore. I know who I am. I thought I knew who we all were. And then you go on to thank your colleagues. That is incredibly gracious, considering how severely your bosses let you down. Any final thoughts?
There are bosses that I was thanking, but again, like anywhere else, it's a collective effort. I think that's actually why Big Law is failing, is because most people that understand the importance of collective effort do not go into industries quite like that one.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Rachel, for joining us, but most of all for taking a stand, for doing what you did. I sure hope it represents a groundswell. We need that now more than ever.
I hope so as well. Thanks so much for having me and amplifying.
Can't get enough Meidas? Check out the Meidas Plus Substack for ad-free articles, reports, podcasts, daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, and more. Sign up for free now at MeidasPlus.com.